sometimes people feel forced to forgive, and I don't think forgiveness is something that we have to do. I would never say that anybody has to forgive, but I think that it's an act of self-love if we decide to forgive, because really what it is setting ourselves free. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it today, because it's that important if what you're really looking for is freedom. And I think that most of the time what most of us are looking for is a sense of freedom in our lives, freedom from suffering. And instead of really a lot of what I focus on is, instead of trying to avoid the things that we feel cause us suffering, it's a better strategy to learn the skills of what to do when we are suffering to get us back into a state of peace. And forgiveness is one of those tools that we use to get us back into a state of peace. And a lot of the tools I teach are going to be tools where you can actionably do something. Feeling your feelings, the feeling of feelings practice that I have in my YouTube channel, the feeling anger and rage practice that I have, and the energetic protection practice that I have are all things that you can do actively to bring yourself back into a state of peace. And there's other things like mindsets, like perspectives that we need to adopt over time in order to be able to bring ourselves back to a state of peace. Because the thing is that what we signed up for as humans is an experience of being able to have all the spectrum of feelings that we possibly can on this earth. And so we're never going to be able to avoid having those experiences. But what we can do is develop tools and practices that help ourselves get back to a state of peace quicker, so that we don't linger in that experience of suffering. And what is suffering? Suffering is any experience where we are out of alignment, or you may recognize those better as hard emotions like anger and fear and sadness and guilt and shame, confusion, overwhelm. Anxiety is a great indicator that you're out of alignment. Anxiety is simply the physical experience of fear. It's simply the physical experience of hard emotions. So it's a physical manifestation of hard emotions like fear or anger. So the better strategy is that we develop tools and practices to be able to get ourselves back into a state of peace. And forgiveness is one of those tools. And it's also a practice, but not in the way that my other tools are practices. My other tools are practices, and they're on my YouTube. Literal practices that you can do and should do often in order to feel, in order to continue to bring yourself back to a state of peace in the moment. Forgiveness is more of a mindset perspective shift that you need to constantly commit to. So it is still a practice, but it's one that you commit to when you're ready to stop suffering. And please do ask any questions that you have on forgiveness or on your situations. I think that some of the toughest people to forgive are our parents, our family members, because we have shared trauma with them. And they tend to be able to trigger us pretty easily. So that's a really good place to start, because if you can get to a place of forgiveness with the people that you have shared trauma with, then you're you're in a pretty good place to be able to figure it out for everyone else. Hey, Cody, good to see you. So please do ask me any questions that you have, my dears. And thank you for the likes, Cody. Because this really is a commitment. What forgiveness really is a commitment to it's a commitment to your well-being, and it's a commitment to making sure that you do everything you can to stay in a state of peace. It's a commitment towards yourself and towards you not suffering, towards you not choosing to suffer. And I think that's a really important distinction, because a lot of times we think of forgiveness as something that we do, we forgive somebody else, right? Like it's like the forgiveness is between you and the other person. The way that I see forgiveness is a commitment between you and yourself. Forgiveness for me is a commitment between me and myself, because I'm committed to making sure that I will not that I will not contribute to my own suffering. And so if I'm committed and I've promised myself that I won't contribute to my own suffering, then I will find a way to forgive. And that for me makes all the difference, because then it becomes not at all about the other person. Then it becomes a promise to yourself. And it almost is that the other person becomes null. They don't actually matter, because your promises to yourself and to your commitment to not contributing towards your own suffering. And that's one of the most profound perspective changes I think that we can make when it comes to forgiveness, is taking the other person out of the equation. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't feel our feelings about the other person. That's a big part of the journey, and that's my feeling of feelings practice that I have available on my YouTube. Because being able to feel your feelings about what happened and your feelings towards the other person is incredibly important for you to be able to feel seen, heard, and understood. The thing about forgiving is that what it hopefully drives you to do, if you're searching for practices and tools so that you do not contribute to your own suffering, then what you're ultimately going to come across is that you need to see, hear, and feel all of your feelings about the experience. You need to understand your perspective about what happened, and you need to feel your feelings and validate your feelings about it. One of the reasons why we don't forgive is because we feel like the other person doesn't deserve it, and and all we really want is for them to see, hear, and understand us. But the thing about it is that they're never going to, because that wasn't the lesson that they were here to teach you. Actually, the lesson that they were here to teach you is exactly the one that I'm describing. Because if you contribute to your own suffering by sitting in unforgiveness, and by the way, unforgiveness simply means anger, resentment. It simply means committing to a hard feeling and choosing the hard feeling over your peace. So what you're essentially doing is still giving someone else power over you and your experience of your life. And that's not empowerment, that's victimhood. So if what we really want is to be able to be empowered in our lives, then it's going to be much more effective for us to be able to learn the skill of forgiveness, the skill of choosing our own peace. And the perspective change that comes along with that, as I said, is going to be that forgiveness is a promise to yourself that you will not contribute to your own suffering, because you love yourself way too much to do that. It might not be that you know exactly how to forgive in that moment. you might say, I don't know how I'm going to forgive this. I don't know how I'm going to forgive them, but I'm going to. I know I'm going to because I want my own peace. I'm committed to my peace. So that's a great first step. Deciding that you are going to forgive, even if you don't know how, because you don't want to hold on to the anger. You don't want to hang on to the resentment and to the pain. And what's always under anger is a different emotion, like hurt is a big one, sadness, fear. Those are all underneath the experience of anger. So that's why I have an anger and rage practice available free on my YouTube. And I also have a feeling of feelings practice, and you need both. Hey, Purple Hearts. Forgiveness. I never liked that word. Oh, tell me more about why you never liked that word. And let me tell you, once you learn to commit to forgiving, it becomes the best drug that you've ever taken once you make a practice of it. Because literally the experience of always coming back to your peace, always coming back to the experience of euphoria in your life because nobody else has control over you, it does feel like a drug, because every time something happens that's external to yourself, immediately, again, you might not immediately forgive them. Over time, you can immediately forgive people because you've developed the practice and you know how to do it. But in the beginning, the cool thing about it is that you don't, like, you realize that there's nothing in particular that you have to do. There's nothing there. Simply by committing to wanting to forgive is half of it, and then being able to feel and validate your feelings is the other half of it. That's it. And so you don't have to like do something in particular or special to forgive. Forgiveness doesn't have to take years. Forgiveness just comes naturally when you do these things. It's a natural byproduct that just happens. Okay, Purple Heart said, I never knew why I have to let someone get away with hurting us, but I do understand letting go for my own sake. But I guess I would call it letting go of them, but not forgiveness. I hear you on that. Thank you, Javina, for sharing the video, sharing the live. Yeah, I hear you on that. That's why I want to reframe it, because I I don't like very much the perspective of like, oh, if we forgive them, we're letting them get away with something. But, you know, that makes it about them. So I agree with you in that sense. It's like, for me, as I said earlier, and I'm not sure if you were here yet, but forgiveness is a commitment to my own peace. It's committing to not contributing to my own suffering. So immediately when I feel a sense of anger or resentment or fear or whatever it is that comes up in having hard emotions towards somebody else, immediately my immediate reaction now is I'm going to forgive them. It might not be I do forgive them. Sometimes it is now, because I've been practicing this for a long time, is like sometimes I know I'm just gonna and you're right. I think that sometimes it is just being able to let it go. But I don't think that we can get really good at this if we don't have a practice where we are constantly feeling and validating our own feelings and our own experiences. So that's why I think the feeling of feelings practice and the feeling of anger and rage practice are so important, because we do need a practice to help us move through the emotions. We can't just say, oh, I'm just going to let it go, because then we run the risk of suppressing our own feelings or people pleasing for the comfort of others, and things that are just not helpful for our own journey anyway. So it is really, I agree with you that it's about our own peace. It's about protecting our own peace and choosing our own peace in every moment. And I think that the other part of it that's really important that we don't always talk about, hold on a second, is that we have to also be choosing our own peace in every area of our life in order to make choosing it a practice. So what that means is that it's going to be really hard for you to forgive people and choose your peace on a personal level with people if you're not choosing it in like a macro way. And I mean that if you're like engaging with content that makes you angry or fearful, like if you have really strong political opinions and you are engaging with political content that demonizes the other people, and as much as you think that they're wrong and they're at fault, engaging with that content is only going to increase the experience of anger and resentment towards other human beings. And so you can't really choose peace on a micro level and anger and fear and resentment on a macro level. You see what I'm saying? It's not, that doesn't work. So you're going to self-sabotage if you continue to engage with content or even have discussions around certain topics that are very emotionally charged. That's going to be really challenging because it's going to sabotage you on your personal in your personal journey of maintaining peace. So that's why it's important that they go together, that you start making these changes and committing to these practices together. Hey, sweet Tiff. What if you are forced to engage with them? What do you mean by forced? Can you explain that a little more, my dear? Okay, Purple Heart said, interestingly, there's an ex I never could let go of emotionally, but never was mad or felt I needed to forgive them. That is interesting. So in what way do you feel like, are you saying you still feel like you haven't let go of them? And in what way, like what are the feelings that are left for you? Because it's totally possible to not to still feel connected to someone. And I would say even especially if you feel like you don't need to forgive them, like there's certain people who have a huge impact on our lives in a positive way, even if it didn't work out, you know, even and I would say, especially if you have someone like that who is a good person, who is just a good person, um, then, you know, maybe you don't need to let them go for, you know, totally. Okay, I'll come back to that though, Purple Hearts. Okay, Sweet Tiff said, co-parenting. Okay, so you're talking about, I thought you were talking about on like the macro level of engaging in conversations or engaging in topics that make you angry or scared, but you're talking about on the micro level. Yes. So my dear, um, it's not easy, but it will require that you commit to your own experience. I would strongly suggest that you take a look at the Feeling of Feelings practice that is on my YouTube. Again, it's free, it's available. And the reason is because it's absolutely 100%, 1,000% possible to forgive somebody while you're still engaging with them and on some level. I would say it's a great opportunity to explore your own boundaries around that relationship. So making sure that you're clear on what is comfortable for you and how you engage with them. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to say that because I think that when you're going through the process of feeling your feelings and getting to forgiveness. And by the way, forgiveness is not just like a destination that we work towards and then we're there and then it's just like rainbows and roses after that. Forgiveness is a choice that you constantly make. It's something that you choose to do over and over and over every day for your own peace. It doesn't mean that those hard feelings are there every single day, but it does mean that um I think more so than anything, what it means is committing to feeling and validating your own feelings as many times as they come up. And those feelings might be towards that person, but it's absolutely possible and actually very important, I would say, to learn the skill of being able to go through that process with yourself, which is more of a personal and internal process, and engage with that person even on a day-to-day basis. It's absolutely possible because I've done it. And I think that ultimately it does mean taking some distance from that person. And I don't mean necessarily physical distance because sometimes you can't physically be away from the people that you need to forgive, right? Depending on living situations or life circumstances. So what that means is taking emotional distance from them and perhaps toning down or taking some access away from you and how you choose to interact with them. So maybe like, and I'm not sure of your specific circumstance, but like, you know, um, you only like, I don't know, setting some boundaries for yourself. Again, boundaries, I've talked about this a lot, but boundaries are promises that you make to yourself. So it's similar to forgiveness, but a boundary is not saying like, you can't do this or like, don't do this with me. A boundary is saying, when this happens, I promise myself that I'll do this. Or it's saying, I promise that I'm going to show up like this. So I'll give you an example. A good boundary would be like, if people try to call you like during certain hour, like if they try to call you after 9 p.m. and you're like, that's my me time, that's my time before bed. A boundary is I don't accept calls after 9 p.m. It's not, you don't tell the person like, don't call me after 9 p.m. You can certainly ask them not to, but since we're not trying to control people in this journey, we're trying to um empower ourselves and being able to choose and move through hard feelings. So we're saying what we're going to do. I do not accept calls after 9 p.m. Or you can choose to maybe, I don't know, like how your co-parenting is, but if you say like, I'm only going to engage with this person for like a maximum of 10 minutes at a time, and that's it, and we're only going to talk very surface level about the kids or, like whatever, like set, it's boundaries are specific. So like set time periods, set things, or say like I only text this person like, a sentence or less. You know what I'm saying? Like, my point is that we're taking access away from ourselves. We're taking emotional access away from ourselves. We don't need to totally cut ourselves off from the person. And as a matter of fact, as I said, I think it's important that we learn the skill where we do actually show up for ourselves while we still have this relationship with this person. It's not easy, but it is part of life, and it means that we're not living in the black and white. We're not living in the, oh, I can't be at peace because this person's still in my life. So either I'm at peace and they're not in my life, or I'm not at peace and they're in my life. That's black and white thinking. So what we're trying to do, because we love ourselves so much, is we're exploring these areas of gray, because there's millions of areas of gray in between. And in the gray, we find that we can actually be an experience of peace and still have this person in our life. So it's just about building the right tools. And I would say the boundaries are probably the number one thing for you to think about is, okay, what are the small tweaks? Because they're not big things necessarily. Like, right? It's like a boundary could be like, I don't talk to this person over the phone anymore. I only text. And then every time they call me, I just don't answer the phone. And I tell them, maybe I text them back like, hey, I'm not in the mood to talk right now. Or like, hey, what can I help you with? What's up? because my promise to myself is that I'm not going to talk to them over the phone, because that's giving too much energy of myself. That's giving too much access to them of myself. So have a think about what are the ways in which I want to make sure that my energy is protected by minimizing my engagement with this person, the energy that I give to this person, right? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is do the feeling of feelings practice, because that's going to help you feel seen, heard, and understood. This the person you're co-parenting with, and for anybody else, whoever it is in your life, they're never going to be the ones that are going to be able to see, hear, and understand you, because they were never the ones that did that to begin with. And they aren't supposed to be that person. That's not what they're supposed to do in your life. Perhaps what they're supposed to do in your life is exactly why you're here watching this, and perhaps their their role in your life is to motivate you to find new tools to move through hard feelings, so that you can actually become a better version of yourself, a more empowered version of yourself, and like live as a better, more peaceful human. Because it's actually, at the end of the day, it's not even about them. It's about, how do I feel about how I'm living my life? Like, what is my experience of my life? And if you can get to a place where you can get to forgiveness, and where you are choosing forgiveness, because that's really what it is, it's choice. And it's a choice to choose you and to not choose suffering for yourself. If you can choose that, then you are unstoppable. Then you can do anything. If you can get to a place of peace with the people that have triggered you the most, you are unstoppable and you can achieve anything. So that's the goal. And I said this right at the beginning, where some of you might not have been here, but it's a better strategy as human beings who have signed up for this human experience, and who have also signed up for all the emotional spectrum of experiences that come with being human. It's a better strategy to learn the tools and practices that get you back into peace, rather than just trying to stay at peace, rather than just trying to stay in positive vibrations all the time. That's not going to work. So the best strategy you can have is to learn the tools. Once you have the tools, you actually don't need to worry about whatever emotions come up, because you know how to move through them. It's not scary anymore. It's not hard anymore. I'm telling you, it does not feel hard anymore, because a hard feeling comes up towards somebody or towards some situation. I know exactly what to do with it. I know it's not going to sabotage me. And I know I'm not going to sit with it for days, weeks, months, or years. And what's the best part about that is, the reason I know it is because I know I'm not going to choose it. And the way that I don't choose it is I use my tools. Feeling of feelings practice, feeling anger and rage practice. Those are foundational. And when you do get to forgiveness, the point at which you know that you've forgiven someone is when you can have compassion for them. It's not like I do this one thing and then I've forgiven them. It doesn't happen that way, because forgiveness is a natural byproduct of seeing, hearing, and understanding yourself. When you're doing the practices of seeing, hearing, and understanding yourself, validating your own emotional experiences, and allowing the energy to move through you, what happens is you stop needing that person to see, hear, and understand you, which is really where the unforgiveness is coming from, right? It's because they can't see me. They can't hear what I'm saying. They can't understand my perspective, why they hurt me. So first they hurt me, then they weren't able to hear about why they hurt me. So now they double hurt me. And I'm so angry, and I feel like I hate them. And by the way, in my feeling of anger and rage practice, it's a practice of allowing that hatred, because the hatred is real. The feeling of wanting to say, fuck you, is real. And the practice allows you to say those things, because you have to say those things. but you don't have to say that to them, but you have to say them because you need to allow that energy to move through your body. If that energy is in there, it needs to be felt, it needs to be acknowledged. You can't continue to go on with this hard feeling, with this angry energy in your body that's a F you energy towards someone, or a I hate you energy towards someone. You can't get to peace without feeling that. So you have to have a practice for feeling that. That's where the anger and rage practice comes in that I have available. Purple hearts, longing, constantly thinking they are the greatest love I ever experienced, but it's been so long and brings me to tears. You know, what's so funny is I can relate to that. Seems like too much emotional reaction on my part to someone who is gone. Okay, so I think this is a really good reflection that you've had. I'm very proud of you for that because even just noticing your emotional reaction is important. And I would say that the experience that they're bringing up for you is really important. It's obviously coming up for a reason, and it's coming up because probably not only that person meant a lot to you, and that's part of the feeling of feelings and validating the feelings that you should probably do. And also thinking about who you were. Who were you at that time? What did that person bring out in you? Or who were you before that person arrived and allowed you to attract them? What were the qualities that feel far off from where you are now? Because what I've learned in my journey is that when we miss somebody in that way, like, yes, there's probably still a lot of love, and that love doesn't need to go anywhere, but you're right in kind of exploring this question of you know, the perhaps abundance of emotion that you might have towards this person. um Missing this person is that it's probably actually missing yourself. There's a part of you that existed at that time, or aspects of you that you miss, and that this is coming up so that you can start to get more in touch with that version of yourself, those qualities in yourself that still exist, but that perhaps you haven't felt in a long time. Think about that. Never mind, said unforgiveness freezes your soul's progress. I've never thought about it that way, but I don't think it helps in your progress. I'll just say that. Natus, there's no such thing as forgiveness in nature. Sure there is. LEG, hi, how about forgiving a coworker friend who everyone warned you about who turned on you? Well, Ellie, I would say that that's more about, from what I am hearing from that sentence, probably more about feeling and validating your disappointment in yourself and the experience that your experience. That's where the feeling of feelings practice comes in. I encourage you to take a look at my feeling of feelings practice in my YouTube channel, because there are going to be ways in which people hurt us, but we contributed. We signed up for that. So yes, there's probably still an aspect of anger towards them, but I'd be very surprised if there wasn't also disappointment in yourself. Natus, forgiveness only creates repeat offenders. I don't know what you mean. Ellie, this person is also very manipulative. I told my boss about the person's behavior. No, the person said I am wrong for telling on her, like I'm the bad one. Okay. So I think that honestly, before you do anything else, I think you should do the feelings practice and feel through what's coming up for you. The thing is, when we get hurt and then we take action when we're still in a state of hurt or anger, it's it's your actions are aligned with the hurt and the anger. The actions aren't aligned with peace. So before you do anything else, before you have any other conversations, before you like literally don't do anything and feel your feelings. Feeling of feelings practice in my YouTube because I'm not going to do it tonight. And it doesn't take very long. Practice itself could take, a handful of minutes. I don't know, it depends on how long you want it to. I think the video itself, I mean, I have it in other lives, but I think the video itself is around like 17 minutes, but I also do some explanation in that. So it's definitely not, I mean, maybe 10 minutes. But I would say you've got to allow yourself to feel your feelings and validate the hard feelings that are coming up because I'm not saying you did the wrong thing in telling your boss, but it could have been like a knee-jerk reaction to wanting to like fix the situation or um, kind of a moral thing of like wanting them to take accountability for something, like trying to force accountability on them. Um, the thing is like most of the time people don't take accountability even when it's forced. So it's much better to take your space and distance and show up for yourself instead of trying to like fix the external situation and like force something on somebody that, it doesn't it might not necessarily help. It like my point is just focus on yourself right now before you choose to do anything else. Focus on what's coming up for you. Focus on any anger or resentment coming up for you. And again, what's always behind anger? Hurt, sadness, disappointment. So there's probably disappointment in the other person and disappointment in yourself. You got to feel and validate those things. And when you go watch and do the feeling of feelings practice, you'll understand what I'm saying because it's not just that we say like, "Oh yeah, I'm hurt." It's not like that's not enough. We need to be able to validate these experiences for ourselves and actually feel the heaviness and the weight of what it feels like to be disappointed in ourselves in that way and to feel sad about that. It's really important. It's really important that we stop pointing the finger at the other person and saying, well, they did this. They were wrong. They're manipulative. And it's really important that we just take some time away from pointing that finger and just look at ourselves and what's coming up for us. The truth is that you feel perhaps angry, perhaps hurt. And of course you do. Purple Hearts, I was in so much pain at the time, unaware of my pain, and they brought lots of love. Even so, I was open and free with my love. There you go. Expressive. There you go. Oh, that's a good one. If you act when you're hurt and anger, then your reactions are aligned with. Yeah, exactly, my dear. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, Purple Hearts. But see what I'm saying? Like that person brought out like a freedom in you, right? Like there's a sense of freedom, safety, love, a freedom to express your love. They brought out things in you that that maybe you haven't felt connected with in a while. Would you say that's true? Um, they were a permission slip. They gave you permission to feel that way. But the truth is that you don't need them to feel that way. So feel your feelings about it and even feel like the missing them. Sounds like you have to some degree already, but LEG, wow, yes, I see what you're saying. I am a bit disappointed with myself for befriending her. Exactly, my dear. And I think if you dig deep, that's probably a really important thing to acknowledge in yourself and validate. Yeah. Okay. Joan dated a man for 8 months and he lied about his home and condo in Florida and I fell for him. Okay. Just seeing if there was anything else that you added. Yes, my dear, and I think it might be similar to what Ellie is saying. So when stuff like this happens, yes, we have anger and resentment towards the other person, and underneath that is probably also some disappointment in ourselves. So use the feeling of feelings practice in my YouTube and feel through it. Because otherwise, you're subconsciously going to continue to beat yourself up for engaging with this man, for believing him. And guess what? When you don't heal that, all of those things really reflect on your image of men as a whole, your image of people, your trust in people, ability to trust people, ability to trust men. So this is really an opportunity for you to be able to show up for yourself a little bit differently than you have in the past, a little bit more fully. This man, in hurting you, has given you the opportunity to learn how to feel and validate your own hurt in a way that will allow it to pass so that you don't need to hold on to it, so that you don't need the situation to even change. Does that make sense? I'm trying to like, hold on a second. This. Okay. Ellie, she wanted me to be a mean girl with her and bully people. I finally stood up for me and my coworkers. Well, good for you, and that's something that you can be proud of. But again, I think just the fact that you're like, when people have unhealthy behaviors, like bullying or like making fun of people, it's really their own woundedness that they're coming from. So it's important to move through your own feelings, because you'll find that once you do, you won't engage with her anymore, or as much as possible you won't, but you also don't need to like call her a mean girl or call her manipulative, because she's just being herself and acting out of her own wounding that she hasn't healed. So that's part of this energy of forgiveness that I'm talking about, is like, you've gotten to forgiveness towards somebody when you can have compassion for them. But when your own emotions of anger and hurt are still present, there's no way you can get to compassion for someone. So therefore, there's no way that you can get to forgiveness. So that's why it's so important. If you are committed to your own peace, if you are committed to not contributing to your own suffering in this life, this is a lifelong skill. This is like you guys are giving examples right now, but I mean, this is going to keep coming up. It's not like, oh, this thing happened and then I'm, and then that's the only thing. People are gonna hurt you throughout your whole life. So isn't it better to have the tool and have the skill that you can immediately when it happens, I know the practice to implement so that I move through this in minutes instead of days, weeks, months, or years. And then you'll notice that it's a lot easier to get to a place where you can have compassion for them because your own emotions aren't in the way anymore. You just see them for who they are, which is a wounded individual. You don't have to engage with them, but you also don't need to label them because you have compassion for them. And when you feel that, like and again, it's just something that will naturally happen one day. When you set the intention that, yes, I want to forgive this person, I want to get to forgiveness, even though I don't feel like I'm there yet. And then once you feel your feelings and validate your feelings, I swear to you, it just happens. Because there's nothing to hold on to then. Once you've seen, heard, understood, validated your own emotions, this is the thing that's missing for so many people in millions of situations, billions. It even works with your most horrible trauma. All you really have to do is have the practice to feel and validate your own feelings about the situation and towards the person, and then they go away. You still get to figure out after the fact, oh, okay, how do I want to engage, or do I want to engage with this person at all? Or what are the boundaries? That's a great place to set boundaries from. So that's why, and Purple Hearts pointed this out too, which I'm grateful for because, sometimes I'm just saying things and I don't realize if they hit or not, but I'm glad that that one hit for you, my dear, is that like you really shouldn't make any decisions when you still are in a when you still are hurt or angry or afraid. Whatever the hard emotion is, don't make any decisions yet if you're still in that. Feel your feelings, validate them, allow yourself to sit with the weight of it without thinking about anything having to do with what to do. Like so many of us, something happens and then we automatically jump to, all right, what do I do about this? How am I going to fix this? Or what am I going to say? Or who do I talk to? How do I tell them that they hurt me? I need them to take accountability so I can be at peace. Like, what do I do about it? I have to do. That's the masculine coming in. That's our tendency and our taught tendency to immediately jump to the masculine instinct of doing, fixing. But that's not like the part of us that needs attention is the feminine. And that's really actually collectively as humanity, the part of ourselves that each one of us is being called to connect with because it's been suppressed for so long. We haven't been connected to our feelings for so long. So the feminine is coming in a very strong way. That's why, when I come on here, it's not just you, it's not just me, it's millions of people that are going through the same experience at the same time, trying to learn how to do that. Like, what do we even do with these hard emotions? What do we do with that feminine part of ourselves that sort of feels like a burden right now because we don't know what to do with it? So the feminine part of you needs you to stop thinking about what to do and just pay attention to how you are, to your being, to yourself, to what you're feeling, to what's coming up, to the heaviness, to the weight. How does it feel to carry that anger? It feels heavy, doesn't it? And once you really sit and explore that and feel it and allow yourself to sit with it for like a day, like just allow yourself to sit in that heaviness, you know, not forcing anything, not talking to anyone if you don't want to, not distracting yourself by scrolling social media or watching Netflix. This is the courage that it takes to go through this journey, to be with yourself fully. This is actually what it means to love every version of yourself, is to show up at and even the hardest moments, and even the times like when you feel these hard feelings and you don't know what to do with them. Look, you're here, you're on this live, you're showing up. So I encourage you to take the next step and learn the actual practice of feeling your feelings. Purple Heart said true. Ellie, hurt also because I thought she was my friend. We spoke up and she's close with the boss, so nothing. Yeah, so right now you're still kind of explaining it all, which is fine, and but we need to allow ourselves to feel it. So when you're done here, go do the feeling feelings practice on my YouTube. I just started the YouTube to post these lives, and I haven't posted the last live, but I'll post the last 2 lives this week. So you can actually go through and watch this live again later. But I do have other videos on there with the practices too. And and really feeling the feelings. I mean, I have done it on the lives before and I think it's effective, but the whole point of having that practice is that you can refer to it at any time. It's not like you need me. You don't need me. My intention is that everybody that comes across my content and learns the practices that I teach now has skills for life, because you don't need me or anybody else or anything else. You don't need your therapist. You don't need a coach. You don't need anybody to actually do the practice and get yourself back to peace. I want you to be able to have the tools and have the practices where you can access them and implement them at any time in the moment, no matter what's happening, so that you can get yourself back to peace. The whole point is that you feel empowered to get yourself back to peace, not that you need anything else or anybody else outside of you to do that. You have the power, and that's where this is really an empowering process. Forgiveness is an empowering process because, again, it comes back to, I am committed to my peace. I am committed to not suffering. I will not contribute to my own suffering by holding on to anger. So that's empowering. You're making an empowered choice. And so all the tools that I teach mean that you can do it yourself. You don't need anybody else. I'm not saying that you don't need other people in your journey, because you definitely should have somebody you're working with one-on-one. But like, even if you have a therapist or a coach that, let's say, you meet with weekly, you have that week and you don't always have access to that person, or I don't want you to have to save up everything that you're feeling and sit there with that person during that hour and try to get everything in. This is a journey of empowerment. These tools are meant to empower you so that you don't have to wait for the session with your therapist. And ultimately, you won't even need your therapist, because now you have the tools to do it yourself. Again, everybody, you need other people in this journey. You can't do it alone, but you need both. You need other people, for example, myself coming on to these lives, this type of thing. You need somebody one-on-one that you're working with. But you also need to start learning the skills of how to show up for yourself outside of those things. Because otherwise you're just building a dependence on other people, and that's not helpful for your growth. Okay. Purple Hearts, do we really need compassion for those that do us wrong? Can't we just have compassion for ourselves? Good question. I'm not going to say you need to have compassion for anybody. I mean, it's your choice. But what I'm saying is that you don't, like, you're seeing it right now from the eyes of somebody who has not done the process of feeling your feelings totally, and or setting potential boundaries, things like that. Because if you're even asking that question, you haven't gotten to the place yet where the compassion just comes. Like, I'm not saying that having compassion for that person should be the goal. Having compassion for yourself definitely is the goal. Like everything starts from having compassion for yourself. So absolutely 100%, the goal is to have compassion for yourself only. But what I'm saying is that when you do that and you implement the skills, because feeling of feelings practice, feeling of rage practice, energy protection is also a great way to be able to engage with people while you're still healing the hurt between you. But these are beautiful examples of self-compassion and self-love. The feeling of feelings practice is the most compassionate thing that you can do, because the most compassionate thing that you can do for yourself is allow every version of yourself, every experience that you are having, including all the hard ones, to just exist without judgment. So yes, the compassion for yourself is the goal. The compassion for the other just happens. When you're on the right track of showing up for yourself, compassion for the people that hurt you just happens. And that's the sign of forgiveness. But then guess what? They'll do something else that triggers you, and then you're going to be fucking angry again. Then you do the feeling of feelings practice. You show up again. You do that feeling anger and rage practice. You keep showing up. And then what happens? You get to compassion again. You forgive them again. But the point is that every time that happens, like anytime somebody triggers me, because what's really happening is when you're hurt, it's because somebody triggered you. Their actions and behaviors or words triggered you. And so your trigger is your responsibility to move through. It's not theirs. It's not theirs to take accountability for your experience. So you have to take accountability for your experience of what's coming up. Once you do that, and once you set the right boundaries, it's so easy to have compassion for them. Ellie, yeah, so true. It's sad though. I also loved the job, so you have to just get through it. You don't necessarily have to leave your job either. I'm not sure if you've decided to. I don't know what you mean by I loved the job in the past tense, but you have to, this is an opportunity for you to show up for yourself. So go try the feeling of feelings practice. Allow yourself to move through the hard feelings. And if you all are doing the practice and really truly sitting in the energy of the emotion, you're probably going to cry, because when somebody hurts you, that's really painful. And it really requires that you sit in the energy of like, damn, I trusted them and like they really hurt me. I'm getting teary-eyed right now just thinking about it, because I know what that feels like, and I'm able to access that easily, that emotion of like that sadness of like trusting somebody and then them not living up to what I hoped, who I hoped they would be. And it hurts. So really sit in it. Allow it, and then it will pass. LAG, Purple Heart, yes, same questions, person hurt me, and so many, but I want peace too. Exactly. You need to want peace more than you want to hold on to any of the feelings. I will. Good to meet you. Thanks. I followed you. Okay, awesome, Ellie. I love what you said Purple Hearts, that we don't need to act or make a decision, which is hard in moments that seem to be asking for a solution or response. Exactly, my dear. Yeah, and it's actually really important that we don't act or do in that moment. And again, this is like the really beautiful, tender part of ourselves, that feminine, vulnerable, tender part of ourselves that we try to keep hidden because we're so scared it's going to get hurt. And it's the tender part of us that we're not encouraged to tap into because we've been told that it's weak. And probably Purple Hearts, even I'm just connecting back to your situation that you stated about how you felt so free to express your love with that particular person from your past. And It probably was that they gave you a safe space to allow that tender version of yourself. And you don't need them to awaken that part of yourself. You don't need them to connect with that part of yourself. It's actually a really important thing that you learn to connect with to it without them. They gave you a gift in that you can look back and see what it felt like. And so now it's just about tapping into that and allowing that for yourself, with yourself. And so in the moment that we do feel the anger or the hurt, because anger is just a cover for hurt anyway, so it's all the same. If we can stop ourselves from our ruminating minds, our minds will start ruminating how to fix this situation. What do I do? Like you'll feel it. It's what we call anxiety. It's what we call anxiety. And it creates such constriction in our bodies. Constriction that is the opposite of the freedom that we want to feel. Constriction that's the opposite of that open expression that you describe, Purple Hearts. That feeling of just being able to feel free. That constriction of anxiety is the opposite of it. And that's when we know, ooh, I gotta stop. This is my sign to stop and feel. I can tell because my mind is ruminating. I can tell because my heart's beating really fast. I can tell because I can't focus. I can only think about this one thing. I can tell because I'm obsessed with trying to figure out how to fix it, what to do about it. I can tell because my palms are sweaty, because I'm not eating or I'm eating too much. What are the signs for you that you're ruminating, that anxiety is present, and then use that as your signpost to say, oh, oh, I have things to feel. And the best part about it is that just doesn't mean something obtuse, something obscure, because I've given you the practice of what to do. So that means do the practice. Hi, Sander. Purple Hearts. Ah, okay. Compassion is the natural consequence that comes after you show up for yourself and trust yourself. Exactly, my dear. Exactly, exactly, exactly. Instead of trying to force up front, I see exactly. Yes, yes. Purple Hearts, you're so good at summarizing these things. Like, you really are good at that every time. So, yeah, exactly. So, that's what I'm saying. I think you've captured it perfectly. That your goal, the goal is always, always revolved around yourself. That's why, and even in reframing forgiveness, forgiveness means that I'm committed to not contributing to my suffering. I won't contribute to my suffering. I just won't. It's not who I am. That's not what I do. So I will get to forgiveness. I don't know how yet. That's, what I've said to myself in the past, right? That's what you can say to yourself. I'm not sure how yet. I'm not sure when. But I know that I'm committed to that because that's peace. That's my peace. So my commitment is to my peace. My commitment is to my having compassion for myself and my experience. And the peace comes naturally as a byproduct, as you've said. And when you reach that level of peace, it's like what I've described before, I'm sure in previous lives, where you can't like be at peace. Peace is a high vibration, right? Peace, love, joy, gratitude, excitement, passion. I mean, these are all really high vibration emotions. And so if you are vibrating at this high level, something like anger is incompatible. It's literally a vibration way down here. You can't be both at the same time. You can only be one or the other. So it's a natural byproduct. If you are feeling your feelings and allowing that energy to move through your body, getting yourself back up to a state of peace, the natural byproduct is compassion for that person, because you are literally a different person than you were as the person that was low vibration, because up here, anger and even hurt, they can't exist anymore. You've gotten yourself out of it. That's the whole point. The whole point is that you get yourself back up here where none of those things are even compatible anymore. So the only thing to have for them is compassion and love. But again, it doesn't mean that you then like engage with them and like everything, it's not that you give them access to yourself. But that's a great place when you're back up here, when you're back into a state of peace and you can feel compassion and love. That's a great place to be like, well, I can feel compassion and love. It's actually important that I take a distance from them, because that's when that keeps me in a state of compassion and love, is when I'm away from them, when I'm emotionally distant from them, when I'm physically distant from them. And you kind of learn that over time too. You probably learn that sometimes with, depending on the person, you learn that like over time and doing the thing that doesn't feel good, right? Like maybe you get to a place of compassion and love for them and then you like let them in a little bit more, because you're like, oh, it's all good, like where there's all like I'm not angry at them anymore, so you like give them a little more access than is necessary. um and then they hurt you again, and then you realize, oh shoot, that's not the right amount of access, so now I take more access away and they get like a very small amount of access, and that actually adds to my peace, because oftentimes like the same people that we need to forgive are also the same people who don't really have compatible energy with us, right? Like they're people who perhaps they drain your energy, or maybe you've actually even noticed that you are anxious around them, or like there's this like anxiety or fear of like being around them. That's your body telling you that it's not really like comfortable around them in the level of access that you've given. So a great place to figure out what access is appropriate is when you get back into a state of peace and love, because then you're in a state of peace and love, so you're not like hating on them, but you can better discern for yourself like what's peaceful and loving towards you. What level of access is peaceful and loving towards me? But I don't have to like demonize them in the process. Their energy is incompatible with mine. So like, we all have people in our lives whose energy drains us, right? Or like we just don't like being around certain people. But that doesn't mean that everybody in that person's life feels that way. There's people in their life that love being around them or that are fine being around them. So there's nothing wrong with them. But your truth is that you don't want to be around them that much. And so being honest with yourself about the level of access that you want to give them is really important in this journey, because that is actually you choosing your peace and your um and it's choosing compassion for yourself. And so that's also where some of the tension comes in, because in this journey, what's going to happen is you're going to take access away from certain people as you go along. And they're going to be upset about that. They might push back on that. And that is, again, why you need the feeling of feelings practice, because you need to practice to be able to feel the hard things that come up. Because now you're probably going to feel anxious because you can feel that they're upset at you. You're going to perhaps feel a little bit guilty because you're changing things up. You're going to be perhaps even a little mad at them for like pushing back on this decision that you've made, even though they may not even be aware of it. Because again, boundaries, I don't think I said this time, but I say it every single live. Boundaries don't ever need to be communicated to the other person, because they're a promise between you and you about how you're going to show up. So you might have told them, or you might have ask them for a change in behavior, but not always. Purple Hearts, they did give me a gift. I saw how I can be. Exactly, my dear. Oh my gosh, I'm sending you so much love. That's the beauty in the journey, isn't it? And you know, the other thing that I've been kind of noodling around lately is like this possibility of love transforming. I don't think that we all have like a great example of that, but love just is. And so even when it was somebody that was like somebody that was a romantic partner of yours or somebody that was a partner, um, if you still have love for them, that love can just be transformed into something else. Like this is also a part of learning to live in the gray, right? Like the black and white is that like we're together or we're not together, right? But there's like this whole area of gray where like, well, what if it could be something different? Like, what if, because that love is still there. And there's so often when we have relationships that end poorly, where, maybe it doesn't feel like there's so much love anymore. But for the ones where the love never left, it just wasn't the right thing. It's a beautiful thing to have had that experience with that person. And when we can actually explore all of the experiences that come up for us and looking at like the gifts that they gave us and the gifts that we gave them, because we also gave them gifts. We can transform that love. Like love is expansive. Love just keeps going. Like love, we just hold it, we keep it. I think sometimes we don't know what to do with that love, but we just keep it and we just let it expand, and we can also let it transform into something else. Like, so you don't know how life is going to go. Maybe that relationship will turn into a beautiful friendship one day, and maybe you can still have that person in your life that was so important. Maybe you won't, but you'll still have the gift that they gave you, and recognize the gift you gave them too, by the way. Hey, Ocean. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you, my dear. Good to see you and welcome. I have been posting the lives, my dear. I know you haven't been able to join in a while, so I'll post the last two this week. Maria said, how do we deal with rumination? Rumination is just an indication that you need to feel hard feelings. So go to my YouTube page, look at the feeling of feelings practice. And whatever you're ruminating about, you need to feel and validate it. Because here's what rumination, I already explained this, but I want to make this really clear. We are taught that when there's a problem, we need to do something about it. We need to fix it. That's the masculine instinct, to do and to fix. And it's not a bad thing. The problem is that so many of us have been taught to do that rather than to attend to the feminine inside of us, which needs us to just allow ourselves to be with what's coming up, to be with the hard feelings, to feel. The feminine is the part of us that feels, the part of us that exists, just is. The masculine is a part of us that does. And so in our society, we have been taught to prioritize the masculine because society prioritizes achievement and accumulation and progress, success, all these things that are like, do more. But the problem is that we haven't paid any attention. We've neglected this feminine side of ourselves individually and as a society, but we're getting there. We're working on that. And how it's going to heal is each and every one of us individually making this change to feel our feelings and validate them. That's actually like one of the biggest things that a therapist does for you is they validate your experience. So they actually are teaching you by showing you how to validate your experience. The problem is that they don't ever really give you explicit tools. You just like sit there and then they like validate whatever you're saying. And sometimes they don't challenge you enough. But you again, I think therapists are really, really, really important. And so are coaches, and so are energy healers, and every type of healer. My point is that I think it's really important that you have outside healers and you have the skills to support yourself no matter what comes up, whenever it comes up. So when you're dealing with rumination, first of all, catch it, realize that you're doing it in the moment. Because what rumination is, again, is you trying to fix, trying to solve. You're trying to solve a problem that you've created. Right? Like that's what the rumination is, because you're going over a problem that you've identified as a problem, something going on in your life that you've identified as a problem, and you're trying to solve it. You're trying to fix it. You're trying to go over every aspect of it. You're trying to like, and I think when it comes to relationships, because that's where my area of interest lies, is within relationships. And I think relationships are one of the things that we often ruminate about, because it's one of the things that causes us the most triggers, so therefore causes us the most kind of trigger to like, ooh, problem identified, we must solve it. The thing about relationships is that you never have all of the information. So you're trying to solve a problem when you don't have all the information. You don't have all the information because you're only one half of the equation of the relationship. So what happens is you get stuck in your brain. Your brain is the masculine part of you. The mind is the masculine trying to solve a problem. Where is the feminine? It's here in the heart. The heart is the feminine, but we're not taught to go there. We don't know how to go there. So what we're trying to do is solve a problem from this space that actually can only be solved in this space. So we have to take our attention away from our minds and put it down into our hearts, which is scarier because it's more vulnerable. Down here is where the hurt lies. This is where the vulnerable, tender parts of ourselves live that we don't often look at, or we haven't in the past. We're taught not to. But this is the exact part that we need to get in contact with. And guess what? This is the exact part that we need to connect with in order to align with our highest version of ourselves, align with and connect with our purpose in life, to feel more fulfilled, to feel at peace, to feel totally empowered in our life, to choose our lives. And finally, most importantly, to feel completely free. This is the part. This is where we're going to find the freedom. Why? Because the things that we feel controlled by, we think, our masculine mind identifies, it's this person, it's this situation, it's my lack of money, it's my job that I don't like, it's this coworker, it's my father, it's my mother, it's my sister, it's my partner. But really, it's what those people are triggering in you that is the thing that's controlling you, and that is the hard emotions. You're not actually being controlled by the things outside of you. You're being controlled by the hard emotions that you don't know what to do with. You're being controlled by the anger you have towards them, by the resentment, by the fear that you have, by the guilt, by the shame, by the hurt, the confusion, the overwhelm. Those are actually the things that you want freedom from. And the freedom comes when we learn what to do with those things. The freedom doesn't come by ignoring them. Freedom comes when we actually gain the tools to be able to experience those and get ourselves back up to a state of peace. And that's the gift in all of the hardest relationships in your life, if you look for and use them as motivation to find those tools and to use them as practices daily, weekly. Purple hearts, yes, I'm glad you said that. I love them so much. So let's see what I can do with this love I have inside. Yeah. Making me cry. Yeah, my dear. Yes. It's not by accident that it's coming up, by the way. Everything that comes up when you are focusing on something, when something like that comes up, it's by design, it's on purpose. So what is it trying to get you in contact with? What is it trying to teach you? What is the part of yourself that it's trying to get you to experience? I get fooled sometimes that it's longing and sadness, loss, but maybe it's just love that doesn't know what to do, where to go. Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I felt something similar a while back, and then um I went to like a energy healing circle thing. And there's a woman there who came up to me after who said like she knows what I'm feeling. And then uh she was like, well, it's just love. And I was like, yeah, but what do I do with it? And she said, you just keep it. And I was like, oh, just keep it. But I will say since then, I think it's really opened up some really interesting avenues of exploration for me, and realizing that there is parts of me that I was at that time that I'm reconnecting with. So it's I think it's a beautiful way that the universe sort of reminds you like, hey, now's the time to connect with that again. And I think it's really, really special. That person is a representation of aspects of you that you really love. I think I'm going to leave it there for this evening, my dears. I think that this was like a great discussion, and thank you so much for being here. And I'll be back on next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, hey, Sylvie. Thank you, my dear. Purple hearts. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. You're welcome, my dear. Sending you lots of love, sending you all lots of love. Thank you, Sylvie. Yeah, and I'll post the last two lives this week on my YouTube, but I know I told a lot of people to go look at the Feeling of Feelings practice. Go look at it or go watch some of the past lives where I have it. Because it really is that impactful. I wouldn't I mean, I think it's the most foundational thing that we all must do is to get in touch with the feminine parts of ourselves. I think that that will heal us and that will heal the world. It is the feminine that's going to heal the world. It's all of us getting in touch with that feminine part of ourselves that is so powerful and empowered. She is empowered. Doesn't matter if you're a male or female. She is that feminine is in you, no matter who you are. Every single person has that. So, um, yeah, Purple Hearts, you keep it. All right, my dear, sending you so much love. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.